Shalom Akim. I'm going to give all praises and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakah, Kadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of GMS who teach and grow well, and salutation to all the Akim, all four corners of earth who's pushing this truth and sincerity. Shalom Akim. Yeah, we want to get into this, watching the news about a week, last week, or this week, earlier this week, I should say. And, they were, you got blackouts. They have it in Puerto Rico, and you had the whole island. It was in complete darkness. The only light was coming off the moon. And they were walking around the streets. Kids were out there with their moms and stuff. And that's in these situations, as far as these type of blackouts in these islands and these countries like that. That's not safe, man. Especially for the women. Speaking about. And there was, come to find out, there was blackouts in Chile and other points in South America and Central America, and this isn't by coincidence, but they'll tell the people that we're having technical difficulties with the grid system, or they'll go to the natural disasters cause this and that. We don't have enough water to run this and that. They have all sorts of excuses, and then you come to find out what the real underlying problem a lot of the times is, it's around election time. Election time brings about the worst of the government, man. They clamp down. They if you don't want to vote for them, they'll have all sorts of people come beat you up. They got all sorts of things going on. Keep it 100. This is not only just a South America, a Central America problem, because this also happens on the west coast of Africa too. Talk to some of those people from Nigeria. They'll tell you, man, the president be on BS. They talk all that black this and that, but when it's time to help the people out that need the help, they don't want to do that, man. They'll charge, or they just go turn the blind eye. But like I said, around these elections is when these blackouts really be rolling around, man, because the government, they're all in. If you don't want to get down with their system, and you're opposing their system, and you're for the next man up, then we're going to torture the whole country. That's the way they think, man. But that's an Edomite way of thinking. But at the same time, they're the ones who's putting money in their pocket, because our people are wicked, man. There are wicked people amongst us, man. And they'll sell out for $1, for $1, for anything, man. Anything that desires their wicked souls. But at the end of the day, you look at these islands and these countries down in Central and South America and in the Caribbean, and like I say, these tourist spots. Puerto Rico's a tourist spot, man. And that's how the island makes its money. But right now, like I said, election times come around and they turn up, man. They turn up. The government, turns its ass and gets down with whatever Esau has going on, man. Whatever Esau's agenda is, whatever Esau tells them to do, they do it, man. This is Micah 2:10. Arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest. Because it is polluted, it shall destroy you, even with a sword destruction, man. So this is not our rest, man. This is why, we're on them islands, and come to find out, when you think about it too, what just happened like a week ago, or what's been going on. You got the Mardi Gras, the celebrations are going on these places, and they cut the lights off, a week or two later, But, just letting you know that happiness is just, it's a facade here, man, They give it to the people just to keep them calm, keep them docile, give them something to do, But at the end of the day, this is not our rest, man. Esau will tell you when to party and tell you when to shut it down, man. He controls everything, man. So our people running around here on these islands thinking they're free and thinking they got it all. They don't. They don't have nothing, man. The devil could cut off anything at any given minute, man. And he does that, man. Let me bring this out, because you gotta realize, man. Everything we do, everything we need, we have to go to Esau for, man. Food, water, electricity. The minimum things that people need in society, we have to go to our leaders. We have to go to our wicked rulers for, man. It's Deuteronomy 28:48. Therefore shalt thou serve thy enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness, and in one of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee, man. You know, so we have to go to our enemies for the one of all things, man. You know, when you think about these countries in South America, Central America, and the Caribbean islands, you know, they supposedly have their independence, man. You know, but in all actuality, you know, they have a wicked government that's over them that sells out to Esau all the time, man. You know, this is why these countries down there, Venezuela at one point, we could take that for instance. Venezuela at one point was a top country in Central and South America, or down in Latin America, I should say. You know, it was a top country as far as tourists, you know, money making. Central America. You know, it was you know, they got oil, you know, they got natural resources. You know, Esau came through there and seeing how they were living and pushed the market of the oil up in their area, and it went backwards, man. They when you put too much on the market, you know, the prices of your goods go down, you know, and that's what happened, you know, and what happened was they left those refineries, all those vacation areas that were in Venezuela and stuff like that, they all got rusted out and turned out, man, you know, dealing with Esau and his little tricks that he runs, man. He gave him enough air to breathe, and for the one, you know, he wanted things from him, and then once it was time, and the things were dried up, that's when he just left them, man, you know, and left the place desolate, man, you know. But yeah, that's how the devil works, man. He's gonna drain you and take what he can from you, man, you know. And then in these elections, like I say, man, when you don't get down with his wicked system, man, he'll find out a way to turn your country upside down, man, you know. This is Isaiah 31:1. Woe to them that go down to Egypt for help, and stay on horses, and trust in chariots, because they are many, and in horsemen, because they are very strong. But they look not unto the Holy One of Israel, neither seek the Lord, man, you know. And that's our people, man, you know what I'm saying? They'll rather go to Esau and continuously do deals with him, even though he's the wicked, man. And he's been pointed out time and time again, you know. But then, you know, we tell them that they're Israelites, man. They don't want to hear that, man. You know, they'd rather be in a docile state. They'd rather be called a Mexican, a Puerto Rican, a Venezuelan, you know. They like these bywords, these titles that their slave masters had given them, you know. And they love that, man, you know. And so this is why the Lord turns our enemies upon us like that, man, you know. This is Isaiah 1:2. The ox knoweth his owner, and the ass his master's crib, but Israel doeth not know. My people do not consider, man, you know. And once again, our people call themselves all these different bywords, you know. They call themselves everything other than children of the Lord, man, you know. I'm going to continue this Isaiah 1 and Isaiah 1:4. O sinful nation, a people laden with iniquity, a seed of evildoers, children that are corrupters. They have forsaken the Lord. They have provoked the Holy One of Israel into anger. They have gone away backward, man. You know, and this is when you see all these idols that they put up. You know, they can't leave the idol worship alone. Speaking about the Northern Kingdom, you know, they have all sorts of. They have graveyards dedicated to their idols, man. You know, and what have the idols done for them? Nothing but put more and more of them in the graves. You know, that's all they've done for them, man. And you know, that's all they've done for them, man. You know, these idols that they worshiping, man. You know, look at the conditions of their country. They got blackouts going on. What are the idols doing right now for them blackouts? You know, go pray those idols that you love to put up in your houses, that you love to decorate around your houses and streets. Go pray to them and see what they do for you. You know, and especially since you're in the dark, tell them to bring you some light. This is Isaiah 55:6. Seek ye the Lord while he may be found. Call ye upon him while he is near, man. You know? And how do you know that the Lord is near, man? Because the prophets are on highways and byways, man. You see these videos being put up more and more, man. You know? This is more and more tall tale signs that the Lord is on his way back. Because the prophets are out doing his work, man. And the Lord spoke about the prophets being found doing the work, you know, when he comes back. Roughly paraphrasing, you know. And that's what we should be doing, man. Be doing the Lord's work, man. You know? Not getting caught up in these worldly affairs. Like I said earlier in this video that, you know, you had the carnival earlier, you know, this month. and you had a bunch of, Carnival comes, everything shuts down. It's party time. Put all your grievances and differences aside and just party away. That's the way your master got you thinking, man. So yeah, let me bring this back again. This is Isaiah 55:6. Seek ye the Lord while he may be found. Call ye upon him while he is near. And you need to know the Lord's name, man. And where are you going to get that, man? From the men that are on the highways and byways, man. From the men pushing the videos. That's where you're going to get the true name of the Lord. Because you're going to need him in these times, man. Like I said earlier in the video, I seen over in Cuba, I seen a mother and a daughter, and there might have been a son walking with them. And they were all just holding hands walking down the street. And like I said, it was pitch black dark. And the only reason you seen them is because of light from the car that was driving by threw the light on them. They didn't even have a They didn't have a candle or a flashlight or nothing to see what was, where they were maneuvering to, man. So they were just holding hands, man. Just letting you know the times we're in, man. But at the end of the day, man, our people, you need to come out of those wicked ways and come back home before the Lord just gets rid of you, man. And when the time is coming, man, judgment for the 2/3 is right in front of us. With that being said, I hope this is edifying. Shalom, Akim.